Tonight, we're in the home stretch as new details emerge in the FBI's investigation of Hillary's emails. Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us. First, my opening statement. The FBI's ability to get Huma Abedin, Hillary Clinton's closest advisor, confidant, and State Department Deputy Chief of Staff, to sing can make or break this election. Right now, reports are the FBI is negotiating with Huma's lawyers, stemming from her joint computer with her pervert husband, disgraced ex-Congressman Anthony Weiner. Here we go again. We are 9 days away from an election that will redefine this nation. And as I said last night, we're on the precipice of yet another constitutional crisis because of the Clintons. This time involving an alleged pedophile, our nation's top secrets, and a couple of grifters from Arkansas. Now, you already know how I feel about all this from last night's Open. The American people are entitled to know, before we go to the voting booth, what it was that caused FBI Director Comey to reopen this case. He's got to tell us what it was that he discovered, what was so big that he violated Justice Department and FBI guidelines and alerted the nation. He cannot hide behind protocol now. The justice guidelines that "don't let me talk" rule doesn't work anymore. The "we don't comment on pending cases" doesn't work anymore. There are no ethical prohibitions now. You have been invited by the target and her surrogates to release the information that caused you to reopen a closed case. If there is an indictment, Hillary is now foreclosed from objecting to such disclosure. My bet is she knows you won't release anything, but thinks that she's calling your bluff. If she really wanted to know, all she has to do is sit down with Huma and ask her. The investigation, of course, is not then compromised, since documentary evidence, in this case emails, don't change. So it's time to do what you didn't do last year, a thorough, unbiased investigation, using all the tools available, search warrants, and impaneling a grand jury. No more "mother may I" routine. You're the one who got yourself into this mess, and now the American people are in a bigger mess. In 2013, Huma signed a document under penalty of perjury when she left the State Department that she had turned over all classified materials and she was not retaining copies. It seems that the metadata on 650,000 emails suggests otherwise. Huma also swore under oath that she searched through all her devices for anything State Department related. And she had a chance to turn things over, and she didn't. So start your negotiation there, Mr. Director. You've got her in a corner, and it's time to throw some punches. Make your deal with Huma now. If you don't, and Hillary gets elected, no one will care. Hillary will do what she's always done. She'll be appalled at Huma. She'll say she didn't know, she didn't remember, she short-circuited, she had a brain clot, she had no idea. Look, the American people are already traumatized by the Clinton scandals, and we just can't take 4 more years of them. Word is that although Justice told your FBI guys to shut down the Clinton Foundation investigation, some of them kept it still going. The Justice Department is dirty, Jim, and you know it. Our Attorney General actually pled the fifth on the Iran ransom probe. And Loretta Lynch meeting with the spouse of a target, and then the target herself days later saying, "I'm going to keep Loretta Lynch as my AG if I become president," is bribery, pure and simple. Jim, go back to your roots. You were once a great prosecutor. Don't let Washington ruin you, too. You need to send these Clintons back to where they came from. It's time for you to buck up, put on your big boy pants, and make a deal with Huma for the sake of this nation. You've got until Tuesday. And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook page or Twitter, hashtag Judge Jeanine. And joining me now is the Executive Vice President of the Trump Organization and son of Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump. Good evening.
How are you?
I am
Good
fine.
To be with you.
How are you?
I love that.
Well, you know, we are in a mess here.
We are.
You are basically new to politics. 9 days to go. As you look back at all of this, what is the thing that shocked you most?
How corrupt the system is. Honestly, how corrupt the system is. I'm a civilian, a plain civilian. We've never been in politics. And when you go from scandal to scandal to scandal, you look at the Clinton Foundation. It's one of the great Ponzi schemes in modern day history. You look at, you know, the Clintons making $250 million in the last 15 years, effectively, since leaving the Oval Office. You look at the email scandals. You look at Donna Brazile giving Hillary Clinton, you know, questions ahead of the debate. I mean, you go scandal to scandal, not to mention, obviously, all the scandals from, you know, Watergate and then, you know, Clinton getting impeached.
Well, and, you know, selling the Lincoln bedroom and all of the file gates and everything. Everywhere they go, there's a scandal.
And honestly, it almost makes me lose a little, it makes me lose a lot of faith in the government. I mean, it's really, really sad. And you don't see it until you're front and center. And you know what, listen, I'm not a fan of people stealing emails. But the one thing I'll tell you that's come out of the WikiLeaks, it's actually shown how bad our system truly is. When you look at those Project Veritas videos, it's horrible. I mean, you have DNC operatives who are incredibly close to Robbie Mook, who have been to the White House 350 times, who are bragging about inciting riots that shut down a city. I mean, this is what these people do in politics.
You know, Eric,
it's horrible.
when they say that, you know, that your father is inciting violence, and then we find out that they're the ones who are inciting the violence, they talk out of both sides of their mouth, and then we find out from WikiLeaks that that's just not the case. So why were they so close? Why was Hillary beating your dad? And we're going to get to the numbers now, which are totally different. Yeah. What do you think Americans, are they not thinking?
No, I think so many of the polls are honestly not correct. I mean, so many of the polls, you had some of the polls that were out this week that were oversampling Democrats by 12%, and you're sitting there saying, give me a break. I mean, like, you know, Obama in his first term won by 5%, and you know, I mean, it doesn't even compare. So I don't know, but it's really, really amazing. I think people are finally seeing it. I think people are seeing how corrupt the system is. Having a front row seat to it, and again, as a civilian, I could never believe it. I could never imagine that people would stoop to the lows that they stoop to, you know, especially in these political campaigns. But they will do anything to maintain power because it lines their own pocket. It keeps them in the Marvel offices.
They're lining the pockets of the people around them as well. It's almost as though it's an organized criminal enterprise because this octopus of connections and this cesspool of corruption, they're all making money. But I want to move on because we could both go on forever on this. But the numbers now, what do they tell us?
Listen, we're doing great. We're doing absolutely great. You look at early voting in Florida. You look at early voting in Ohio. You look at early voting in North Carolina, Nevada. I mean, so many places. We are doing so well.
What do the exit polls tell you?
They're telling us a great, great, great story. I mean, Republicans are up tremendously. Democrats are down. Independents are bigger than ever this election cycle. Independents, as you know, break heavily toward us. People want something new. They don't want the same nonsense that they see every single day. I mean, Hillary, and I say this all the time, Hillary's been a politician longer than I've been alive. I mean, who feels comfortable that she can actually fix the mess that we're in as a country? We've got $20 trillion worth of debt. We've got broken educational systems. We have a broken military. We have a broken VA. Median income in this country hasn't gone up in 15 years. I talk about it all the time. Median income hasn't gone up in 15 years. You look at Obamacare. Obamacare might be the greatest lie in the history of politics. They said you're going to be able to keep your doctor, you're going to be able to keep your plan. The average family was going to save $2,500 a year. In Arizona, the premiums are up 116%.
It's crazy.
And you know what? There's no accountability. And that's the frustrating thing.
And there's no consequence.
In the real world, in private industry, there's accountability. When you say something and the reverse happens, you're held accountable. I mean, there's no accountability.
None. What about the numbers? 12 points last week, and then now there's a 2-point spread in the ABC poll, and that's even before all this stuff came out with Jim Comey announcing the reopening that investigation. Talk to me about that.
We're going to win. I mean, it's just that simple. People want their country back. People want a voice. People want to stop these corrupt politicians. Say what you will about my father. He's a man that can't be bribed. He's a man that can't be bought. He's a man who's put $100 million of his own money into this campaign. This is tough stuff, as you know. I mean, it's tough on him. It's tough on the whole family. I mean, it's tough stuff. This isn't an easy process. He's doing this. This country has given my father everything. It's given our family everything. That's why he's doing it, because he's seeing our country flushed down the tubes by incompetent politicians.
You know what impresses people the most? I have to tell you this, Eric. I look at you. I was in Florida with Lara, I don't know, Thursday, Friday. I've lost the days. And Donald Jr. and Ivanka and her husband. And, you know, Ivanka has a baby in the middle of all of this. You kids are so committed. Your family is so connected. You are the epitome of what family is all about. Do you realize that if your dad wins, I mean, you know, I love your dad, and I'll leave that aside, but America's blown away by how close you are as a family.
Yeah, there's no question. And by the way, if no one else is going to fight for him, and I mean that, you know who's fighting for him? It's the American people. He doesn't have the special interests. He doesn't have these corporations coming out, Wall Street giving him hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. He doesn't have the super PACs. He doesn't have the entire mainstream media. Oh. You know who fights for him? His family. And you know who else fights for him? The American people. And by the way, together we're going to win this thing. There's no question we're going to win this thing. We have to take back our country. I mean, we have to win. Our country cannot survive another 4 years of the mess we're in. And you know the depressing thing to me, John? They can't even admit the problems that we have. They can't admit that $20 trillion is an almost unsurmountable amount of debt. They can't admit that our VA is in shambles. They can't admit that Obamacare failed. They can't admit that we have a depleted military. They can't admit that all of our jobs are going overseas. They don't even talk about these problems. In fact, they say that everything's wonderful. And it's so, so sad. You better recognize the problems because we've got issues, and my father will do a great job fixing this nation.
All right, Eric Trump. I'm dying to ask you what you're going to do when this is over, but we don't have time.
Going back to work.
Eric Trump, so good to have you here. Thanks so much for being with us on Justice. Now, let's hear from both candidates on the trail today as they battle it out just days before the election.
I will continue to address and expose the criminal corruption of Hillary Clinton and its threat to the survival of our democracy. But I also want to spend these next 9 days with the wonderful people of this country talking about my vision for making America great again. And let's talk positive. Let's talk positive.
Donald Trump is doing his best to confuse, mislead, and discourage the American people. I mean, he's such a downer, right? And it's time for him to stop fear-mongering, stop distracting from what's really at stake, and frankly, stop disgracing our democracy. We can't let him get away with this.
Joining me now with reaction, Trump campaign senior communications advisor Jason Miller. All right, Jason, thanks so much for being with us tonight on Justice. I know you're quite busy.
Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. No, listen, 9 days. I don't even want to ask you what your schedule is like, but let's talk about the polls. What do we know as we sit here tonight?
All right, so here's what we know. National polls are moving in the right direction. We see the LA
Which,
Times...
in your mind, is moving toward Donald Trump.
Yes, moving towards... yeah, absolutely. Got to make sure that's clear. Mr. Trump's had a very good week. Not only does the LA Times poll have him in front by 2 points, but there's been a big development. That ABC Washington Post poll that came out last week, as you mentioned earlier, that said Mr. Trump was down 12 points. First of all, we don't think he was ever down 12 points. I think that was outside. But the entire week, it's been moving. Republicans have been coming home. That was the first thing. Beginning of the week, we had Republicans coming home, making a lot of noise. Then the news about the Obamacare premiums came out. That fundamentally, when we look back on this race, this will be a huge week for this campaign because not only was it Mr. Trump talking about how we need to repeal Obamacare, but every newspaper and every newscast in the country was talking about the local state increases. As you guys talked about Arizona with 116%. Don't forget about Pennsylvania with a 53%. Every state has some kind of horror story about just how much these hikes are going up. And think about this for a moment. If you're, at a certain point, this becomes, can you afford rent? Or can you afford to pay your health care? I have a story
for you, Jason. A friend of mine who was a sitting district attorney emailed that his health care is now more than his mortgage and his taxes combined. Everything, his health care costs more than his mortgage. It's crazy.
Well, and even if you're not going through Obamacare, if you own a small business, what it's doing to the plans that you have to offer and the way the premiums are spiking, the cancellation letters that people are getting, this is some scary stuff. So this hit this week, and this was a shockwave.
And then we had another shock.
Then we had another shock where it turns out through these WikiLeaks emails that came out, there's email with a memo from Doug Band, who's kind of the partner in crime. I used to say that tongue-in-cheek, although I'm not sure how tongue-in-cheek that is anymore, with Bill Clinton, where they literally had a plan laid out. Here's how we can go and make $66 million. Effectively selling access to office. Here's our plan, to the point where the Clinton Foundation had to consult an outside law firm to see if this plan would even go and jeopardize their nonprofit charitable status, which is pretty big stuff. That was front page news. And then we had the bombshell on Friday. And so, but the numbers, the net effect on this race.
The bombshell, of course, being the FBI reopening the case.
Yes. And so what we saw this week was with the Republicans coming home, with the Obamacare premiums, with all this news, at the same time while Donald Trump is out there laying out his vision for America, his plan for an urban renewal, how we're going to repair and rebuild our inner cities, all of a sudden, this race, I mean, we believe we're leading, but even the most hardened media skeptic says it's a jump ball.
Well, okay, and the truth is that this has been the craziest election that I've ever seen in my lifetime, and most people as well. But do you expect any dirt being dropped on you before the election by the Clinton campaign?
Look, you can't imagine going into last week of a campaign and not to be attacked from somewhere. But here's the thing you need to know about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a closer. He is a fighter. He is absolutely going to do everything it takes to go and win this race because he cares about it that much. You had Eric Trump on just a moment ago, and I've had the opportunity to get to know the family, and they're fantastic. Mr. Trump wants to win this for the country so badly, and every time you talk to him, even when the camera's off and people aren't around, here's what he wants. Here's how he's going to make things happen. Here's how we're going to have great justices. Here's how we're going to go and tear up these terrible trade deals and renegotiate good ones. He wants this so badly, and the energy is there. And it's not just the energy from him. I mean, you see these rallies, 10, 20,000 people, like 20,000 in Tampa the other day. And this is, we haven't seen this in our lifetimes. And this is something, this energy, and they're not your traditional political activists. They're regular, hardworking folks who maybe haven't gotten active in politics, who want to change the direction of the country. And we're excited about it.
Well, I can't imagine you're not being excited, but I think the key word with Donald Trump is energy. The man is he is a ball of energy, without a doubt. Jason Miller, thanks so much for being with us. As I said to Eric, I'd love to know what you guys are going to do when you have a day off.
Sleep, probably.
Thanks for being with us. And J. Christian Adams is an election lawyer who's worked in the Department of Justice. Next, I get his take on the FBI's investigation and all those emails. Plus, General Mike Flynn is introducing Donald Trump at a rally in New Mexico right now. This is a live picture. The general is going to join me next, and later, one of my favorite Democrat sparring partners will be here. Guess who it is? It's a busy night as Justice rolls on in a moment. You're looking at a live Donald Trump rally in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The Donald about to address the crowd. Now, my next guest is there with the Republican nominee and took a few minutes to call justice. Joining me by phone now from Albuquerque, the former director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, retired Lieutenant General Mike Flynn. Good evening, General. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. You're going to probably hear the sounds of the crowd here. Looks like it's about 5,000 plus strong, maybe more than that.
All right, and you're just coming from Colorado right now, right?
Right, we just landed just about 5 minutes ago, Judge. Yep. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, talk to me about, what you're feeling in the campaign, the crowds, what's going on there?
Well, I'm going to tell you what, there's such a movement, as Donald Trump likes to say. I mean, we have seen in the last probably 3-4 days, 75, 100,000 people in the various venues we've been to. I mean, there's just incredible amounts of enthusiasm, Judge, and it's inspiring to me as a veteran. And I will tell you, we have seen an awful lot of women coming out for Donald Trump in these audiences. I mean, better than 50%. So we're hearing great things. I know you've had a bunch of people on your show here already talking about polls. We feel very, very strong.
We're watching Donald come down the steps now. Hey, General, I just want to tell the audience there he is. Anyway, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm just standing off the back here, walking behind him. I'll tell you what, it's a fascinating thing to see. Donald Trump is all about making this country great again, and he's about, talking to the people. He is bringing a big, big message to America. And with everything going on, I mean, my God, look at what we have just seen in the last 3 days. A major candidate, Hillary Clinton, being basically another federal, inquiry or whatever you want to call it.
It's an investigation. It's an investigation.
Well, they're reopening an investigation, of an unbelievable level of corruption and crime. I hope you can hear me. Now, this is the way it's been for the last probably a couple of weeks, actually, but the last 3 or 4 days, it's just been amazing. You can hear the crowd probably.
But I can hear you, General. I can hear you fine. But in terms of what the FBI has done in reopening the case, what does it tell you, and what is it, how is your campaign reacting?
Well, I tell you what. I mean, the FBI and Jim Comey was I believe, in a very difficult spot, obviously. And what was brought to him was a couple of things. I can tell you, inside the FBI, there was an incredible amount of frustration at the senior levels and a lot of the agents, and they were frustrated with their boss. The boss needed to do something, and when new evidence was brought to his attention, this was a tough decision, but he had to make it. He had no choice. He actually put himself in the box by not, I believe, doing the right thing back in July, which is when he should have basically turned all what he knew over to the Department of Justice and let them make the decision instead of making the decision that he made. So here we are again. He had no choice. He basically did what he had to do. And I'm telling you, you're seeing, 650,000 emails. We're talking about another laptop. We're talking about more classified information, a lot more lying on the part of a number of people. I mean, this is a really incredibly damaging thing. And you know what it is? For me, this is sad for our country because we're talking about people who think that they want to be president of the United States. Oh, my God, what a level of corruption that we're seeing. And criminal behavior. This is criminal behavior. You're going to see, and you know this, Judge, you're going to see people like Weiner and people like Uma Abedin. They're going to be looking to help themselves out because they know they're going to be going to jail. Right. They have committed a crime. They know that they're going to be going to jail.
Well, you know what, General Flynn? I couldn't agree with you more, and I'll tell you, it's time. They've got Uma by the short hairs and the other guy, her husband. It's time to pull him. Anyway, thanks for being with us. We're going to cut in and listen to Donald Trump if only for a few moments. Thank you, General.
Thanks, Judge. Anytime.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
We set this up just a couple of days ago because we heard how well we were doing here. And traditionally, you understand, Republicans aren't quite there, right, yet? But this is a Republican who is there. We're going to win this state. You're going to be very happy. I'm going to fight to bring your jobs back, to make your community safe and secure, and to deliver the honest government America deserves. This is a great movement, folks. This is really a great movement, a movement like they've never seen before. We are now on the cusp of incredible, historic change that transfers power from a failed political establishment and returns that power to the families and communities of your beautiful state. The beautiful state. Early voting is underway.
All right, Donald Trump at a rally in New Mexico right now. We're going to continue to monitor this, and if there's any news, we're going to share it with you tonight. Meantime, GOPAC Chairman David Avella is still ahead. And next, former Department of Justice official J. Christian Adams is standing by to talk live about what could happen next in the FBI's investigation. Justice rolls on in a moment.
Live from America's News headquarters, I'm Kelly Wright. Good evening. Here's what's happening. Another massive earthquake shaking central Italy this morning. It's the third powerful quake in the last 2 months. This one, a massive 6.6 magnitude, the strongest earthquake the country's seen in 36 years. So far, there's no word of any deaths, but much of the region's iconic culture has been destroyed, including 2 churches that date back to the 14th and 15th centuries. And an SUV crashed into a van after it was heading in the wrong direction on a North Carolina highway. That wreck injuring at least 17 people, most of whom were in the van. Police say the woman was driving the truck with her infant in the back seat. She's now facing a series of charges, including driving while impaired and misdemeanor child abuse. That's a look at news. I'm Kelly Wright. Now back to Justice with Judge Jeanine.
New developments tonight in the FBI's renewed investigation into Hillary Clinton's email scandal. What impact will this have on the race? I'm going to ask my next guest, former Department of Justice official J. Christian Adams. All right, good evening, Christian. Thanks so much for being with us. I'd like to start given the news of the weekend, and that is that FBI Director Comey announcing the reopen of the Hillary Clinton investigation, irrespective of, the propriety of his announcing it. What do you think of the fact that he did announce it? What does that tell you about what's going on at the FBI?
It means there must be really bad information that they've discovered. Judge, they had a mutiny on their hands. They had 2 line agents who were familiar with the investigation who were talking to media sources, telling them how rotted this investigation was. And so this means, who knows, maybe they're looking into whether somebody lied in their FBI interview, because that, as you know, Judge, is a crime.
Right.
They may have found documents that show somebody was lying, would make it a pretty easy case. But this is a Justice Department decision. It was never Comey's decision, and Justice was telling him they didn't want to bring charges against Hillary, so I don't have high hopes that anything will ever happen.
Well, and the truth is that he never had access to a grand jury. Only Justice Department can give him that access. And with the AG meeting with the target's husband, and then Hillary coming out a few days later and saying, if I'm president, I'm keeping Loretta Lynch. I mean, this is so dirty, it stuns me. But I want to talk about why we brought you on originally, and that is you're an expert in the area of election and, election systems, and you are in the middle of some very serious lawsuits involving cleaning up some of the election systems. Let's start with some fundamental facts. How many people are illegally registered or ineligible to be registered as voters who are actually registered?
We know there's at least 4 million dead and ineligible voters on the voter rolls. And, Judge, some of the reason is because Justice, the Department of Justice under Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch, allowed this to happen. They didn't enforce the law. Sound familiar? They didn't enforce the law that relates to cleaning up voter rolls, and so they've given a pass to criminals everywhere to participate in the election next week.
Okay, so what you're saying is that somebody can go in and say, I'm this dead person, John Smith, and John Smith is on the voting rolls because the Department of Justice won't let the states clear it up?
Yeah, the Department of Justice interfered with Florida when they tried to get aliens off the rolls. The Department of Justice is not enforcing what's called Section 8 of motor voter. It's my group, for example, the Public Interest Legal Foundation. We've had to sue Philadelphia, Alexandria, Virginia, Wake County, North Carolina, Broward County, Florida, places where there's more people on the voter rolls than people alive, because the Justice Department has not done anything to clean the voter rolls up for the last 7 years under the Obama administration.
And what about the fact that illegals may be voting? Is that a concern?
It's a huge concern. It might be the biggest concern of all. Because of what's called, you can get on the roll so easy, you just have to say, yes, I'm a citizen when you get your photo ID driver's license. And what we have found in places like Virginia and Pennsylvania, we have found in just 8 counties, over 1,000 aliens were on the rolls, because this Justice Department is blocking efforts in Kansas, in Florida, in Alabama, in Georgia, to verify that only Americans are registering to vote. We have a huge problem with aliens on the voter rolls who are also casting ballots.
And Christian, the amazing thing is, if we find out about them after the fact, what are we going to do? Invalidate an election and sue them? That's not going to happen.
Yeah. And it's a federal felony, and guess what the federal Justice Department under Obama hasn't done? It hasn't prosecuted aliens who have been voting. Instead, they're prosecuting people for scaring walruses and grizzly bears. It's a true story. They aren't prosecuting voter fraud.
All right. J. Christian Adams, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks, Judge.
All right. And my panel is locked and loaded. Next, GOPAC Chairman David Avella, Democratic strategist Richard Goodstein. Don't miss it. Back in a moment.
Every 15 minutes, Fox News headlines 24/7, Channel 115.
Developing tonight, less than 2 weeks until Election Day, and Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton remain in a tight race for the White House. Let's get right to the panel. GOPAC Chairman David Avella, former advisor to Hillary Clinton's 2008 campaign, Democratic strategist Richard Goodstein. All right, guys, let's start with the general numbers right now. Last week, ABC poll, 12 points. This week, let's put it up. And this is before the FBI announced their renewed investigation of Madam Secretary. 1 point different, 46 to 45. That's a big move in a week. And I suspect that, given the news, that there might be a bit of a difference, given that the FBI has reopened the investigation. But let's put up another poll so both of you can look at it before you answer. Will the FBI investigation make you more or less likely to vote for Clinton? Less likely, 34%. No difference, 63%. So you've got about a little more than a third of saying it's going to make me less likely to vote for Hillary. So looks like the numbers are moving toward Donald Trump. Richard.
So, Judge, if somebody a year ago told you that the Republican nominee 8 days out from the election, forget all the names, racist, bigot, misogynist, that Republican leaders called him, was going to be down in Alaska and about even in Texas, Arizona, and Georgia, you'd say, it's over. Well, that's where we are. And again, Hillary is up by 8 or so in Pennsylvania, 6 or 7 in North Carolina. Trump has to win those states. He could win Florida, Ohio, where he's tied. He could win those, okay, and if he doesn't win North Carolina or Pennsylvania, he's dead.
Okay, well, that's great.
Period.
Except that right now, nationally, she's only 1 point ahead when she was 12 last week. And
it's a
we've
50-state thing.
Like
it's not national.
Okay. Except that, all right, I'll let you hit it, David. Tell us about Florida, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania. And the guy was in New Mexico, and that's usually blue.
No question, Trump has momentum. And Richard mentioned the state-by-states. Even in state-by-state polls you see in this last week, movement towards Trump, just as you are seeing movement towards Republican Senate candidates as Berg makes his race very, very competitive. Joe Heck out in Nevada. Todd Young is up in his race in Indiana. Marco Rubio is going to win Florida. Look, the Republicans are gaining momentum because Republicans are coming back home. That's where you're seeing this movement in polls, is Republicans are coming back to the Republican ticket, as well as older voters and men are voting in higher percentages for the Republican ticket. There is no question right now, momentum is with us. And even in the early voting numbers, you look at North Carolina, where Democrats are not turning out at the same numbers that they did in 2012, nor are they doing it in the state of Nevada. Remember, there was 1 million African-American voters who turned out for Barack Obama in 2012. Do we think that many are going to turn out for Hillary Clinton this year?
Okay. So, all right, guys. So we disagree. Now, let's talk about going forward. In light of the news that the FBI director announced the renewed investigation based upon what apparently was found at the pervert Anthony Weiner's joint laptop with Huma Abedin, the confidant of the Secretary of State, I suspect that things are not going to be looking too good. And, Richard, what's your take on that?
Can we talk about that pervert Anthony Weiner just for a second? Remember,
anyone
he's being charged.
Anyone who sends pictures of their penis to women and he's married is a pervert.
He's being charged. Yeah, exactly. He's being charged ostensibly with a virtual electronic intrusion on underage girls. One second.
This is not about Anthony Weiner. Anthony Weiner's not even on the ballot.
Excuse me.
Okay, he's a pervert.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
What I'm
and the person.
don't do the virtual stuff with me, Richard. Here's the thing.
No. My point is,
you know what? You want to talk about a year ago? A year ago, you're the one who said to me, "We won't be talking about the emails in a month." And then you had to buy me lunch. And now we're talking about the emails 9 days before the election. See, you deserved it.
My point is that the person at the top of the ticket actually barged in on naked underage girls. Donald Trump bragged about it. He brags about grabbing strangers by the crotch, and he's at the top of the ticket. Anthony Weiner's a disgraced former congressman.
Okay.
So
and
really,
a Secretary of State sharing emails with a woman who's living with a pervert, and now we know there are 650,000 of them, and some of Hillary's stuff is on his computer. Does that upset you as an American? Forget politics.
What upsets me is that James Comey has done irreparable damage to the FBI. We know nothing today, nothing. There's all this speculation, rank speculation. We know nothing about anything that they found other than it was something that put Comey in a box, which I think he's done a miserable job, according to Larry Thompson,
did a great
George
job
W. Bush's Deputy Attorney General.
Go ahead, David.
Well, why is every Democratic Senate candidate not being asked if they still stand with Hillary Clinton? Look, the way this is going, Secretary Clinton is either going to have to pardon herself if she were to win re-election, or she's going to prison. And Democratic candidates ought to be held accountable of, are they going to stand with someone who clearly has violated, if not at least State Department guidelines, she's violated laws. And the more we learn, the more it leads to Secretary Clinton
admits to violating laws. He admits to grabbing strangers by the crotch. He admits that that's sexual assault. That is a textbook act.
You know what?
He is admitting
you
to
guys
criminal
are
behavior.
famous for pivoting. I'll tell you, Richard. It's all about Hillary this week. David Avella, Richard Goodstein, thanks for being with us. And
thanks,
one of my longtime Democratic foils is standing by. It's going to be fisticuffs. I could feel it. We take on each other next.
.com and visit New Carlisle today.
Welcome back. The stakes couldn't be higher with just 9 days left to the election. My next guest is liberal radio show host Coco Sudek. All right, good evening, Coco. Let's get started.
Hello, Judge.
I have to tell you, I think it's so ironic that Hillary Clinton did everything she could to attack the women who accused her husband of all of these sexual indiscretions, and yet it's Hillary's right-hand female aide who may end up taking her down.
Come on, Judge. This is not going to take her down. This is going to tighten the polls a little bit, and that's a good thing because it's going to remind Democrats to get out there and get out the vote.
That's all you're going to say? Coco!
I mean, this is not going to, come on, this is not going to take her down. Some emails that the FBI discovered weeks ago that they didn't even bother to tell their boss about. And when they told their boss, he got all excited and created the James Comey full employment program by taking it to the Congress as an innuendo, a little gossip.
All right, here's the thing.
This is not going to take her down.
Here's the thing. He went before Congress, and he said the investigation was closed. And then he finds out there are 650,000 emails that when they do a metadata search, they're connected to Hillary Rodham Clinton's private email server. So you say to yourself, what is this ex-congressman, disgraced, pervert, alleged pedophile doing with stuff from the State Department server? Even you, Coco, as an American, have to admit this is dirty, dirty, dirty.
Okay, first of all, Judge, I think we can all agree,
yes,
Democrats and Republicans alike, that Anthony Weiner is a truly, truly bad guy. Let's put that aside. We have found something.
So why does he have a computer with State Department stuff on it?
Hang on. Right, but the thing is, we don't actually know about 650,000 emails. We don't know anything about these emails.
Yeah, we do.
We don't.
We know they did a metadata search, and on the metadata search, they're picking up Hillary's stuff.
You know why we don't
Jim
know that?
Comey did this because, you know what?
We don't know that. Here's why we don't know that.
They got a search warrant.
The
search warrant went through tonight.
The warrant was just issued.
Yeah.
The FBI would have seized those emails
because they had to make a show. Hey, I'm a judge. I used to sign this stuff. They had to make a showing that there was a connection to the case. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gotten the warrant. Trust me on this. Stop. Let's talk about WikiLeaks.
All right.
What do you think about the fact that your gal, her husband was making $100 million from people who donated to the Clinton Foundation, so much money that he made $12 million from what country is it? For 5 minutes, not Qatar. One of these countries. Come on, guys, can you give me some help there? $12 million from one of the countries for 5 minutes, one of the Middle Eastern countries, and made $100 million just to be him. They were raising money for Bill Clinton, Inc. While she's Secretary of State.
That's what the market, because that's what the market would bear.
5 minutes for $12 million.
It didn't have anything to do with her being Secretary of State. It had to do with him being Bill Clinton.
Well, let me ask you a question. How do you go from $125,000 a speech to $12 million for 5 minutes? Can somebody find out the name of that country? Morocco.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know that that's true.
It is true.
But, okay. But the thing is, it's Bill Clinton. Okay?
Isn't that
Bill Clinton is
handsome? I
worth
mean,
any amount of money to
change
get sucked
in
up.
10 years,
Because
125,000 and 12 million.
His words are just nothing but nuggets of wisdom.
Yeah, right. And
Of
she's
wisdom,
the
and people are
Secretary
willing
of
to pay
State.
any amount of
She
money.
can approve the sale of arms.
You guys,
she can approve pipelines. She can approve all kinds of deals.
No, she can't. She can't approve any of that stuff by herself. Not by herself. And you guys have been searching for actual facts and things that you can really bring against her, and you haven't found one. You've got to give it up. She's going to be the president.
But they went
She's going to be the president in 10 days.
You know what, Coco? I'm bringing you on the week after the election when Donald Trump wins. All right?
All right. All right. I'm going to bring me the hanky. I'll be crying.
Yeah? You'll be crying?
I'll be crying.
I'll be laughing.
I'll be crying and drunk.
Bye.
I'll be crying and drunk.
Bye. Drugged. Good. I'll
Bye-bye,
check your
Judge.
blood alcohol. We'll be right back. That's it for us tonight. Make sure to stay tuned to Fox News Channel, your election headquarters, for all the latest breaking news from the campaign trail. And if you want to see some of my opens, go to insider.foxnews.com. You can also friend me on Facebook, and my opens are on that too. Follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Judge_Jeanine. Thanks so much for watching. I'll be here next Saturday night at 9 p.m. You won't want to miss it. It's going to be an exciting week. Can you believe this?